When Dead Space released in 2008, it changed a lot of things in the survival horror genre. The mix of body horror, aliens, zombies, and being in space were all kind of a recipe for one of the best, most genre-defining video games at the time. That being said, the Dead Space series is no stranger to cut content, additional content, or even just lore that's floating around in entirely different mediums. From the animated movies, comic books, and even a puzzle game. There is lore for this series everywhere, really. Purists will say that only the games are the main canon, but what about the games that you can't play anymore, or maybe you just haven't even heard of? For instance, there's a Dead Space 2 DLC. Now, if you didn't know that, you probably played Dead Space 2 on Steam. Because Dead Space 2 Severed is not available anywhere for purchase on Steam. Not to mention that it's a continuation of the on-rails Dead Space game Extraction, which was only playable on the Wii, or if you were one of the 10 people who owned PlayStation Move, you could play it there too. Well, now you can't even buy the Dead Space 2 DLC on Steam. So to get the full story between the ending of Dead Space 1 and the end of Dead Space 2, you have to play the games in this order. Dead Space Mobile, Dead Space Ignition, that puzzle game that I mentioned earlier, Dead Space Extraction, the on-rail shooter for the Wii or PS Move, Dead Space 2, and then Dead Space 2 Severed, which you can't even buy anymore. That's not exactly the point of the video. The point of the video is, you might be thinking, what the fuck, there's a mobile Dead Space game? Well, let me just look that up on the App Store, or the Play Store, Mr. Koifish. Oh, look, there's no Dead Space game there. You just made that up. Well, you're not entirely wrong. Dead Space iOS, or Dead Space Mobile, was developed in 2011 and released in tandem to Dead Space 2. It follows Carrie Norton, or Vandal, as she tries to reverse the necromorph outbreak that she causes on Titan Station. It follows the unitologist member that causes the Titan outbreak. Right away, you're getting to a very, very lore-heavy piece of media that only existed on mobile. But where is it now? Well, in 2015, it was pulled from all storefronts. So maybe you vaguely remember this game just like I did up until a few days ago. And maybe you thought, I wonder if I can play that Dead Space game on my phone. But no, you can't, because it was taken off of all mobile storefronts at some point in 2015. And even if you have the normal APK, the Android package kernel, or whatever the fuck it means, on your phone, after Visceral Studios was shut down, so were all their servers. Meaning that if you have the base game, the base APK on an Android phone, you cannot download integral updates to the game from the Visceral server, making the base game literally unplayable to this day. But what if I told you, if you really wanted to, with some ingenuity and some know-how, some dedication, and a good enough Google search, you could theoretically download an HD resolution modded version of the APK that doesn't need online connectivity to play. There are 12 chapters in Dead Space Mobile, and the game's about 4 hours long, give or take. I played it on the Nox Android emulator, so I was able to play on mouse and keyboard, but the controls still suck. It's a mobile game. And I was only able to play about halfway through because there's a shake the device bit, and I can't get Nox to register it properly, so I'll either have to continue on a new emulator or I'll never get to beat it. But that's fine, because while it is lore, it can be summed up in 2 sentences. You start the outbreak and you die trying to fix it. 1 sentence even. So with the basis of the story being covered, and the roundabout way of playing the game, is it even fucking worth it? No. Not at all. It's a mobile game from the early iPhones and iPod Touches. It runs terribly, even on my 2060. The touch controls are shit. Trying to play it with a keyboard and mouse is terrible. The story is so minimal that even if you wanted every last detail, you can read 4 paragraphs about it on the wiki to get it. Not to mention that it's exactly what Dead Space 2 already tells you. Someone from Unitology starts the outbreak on the Sprawl in Titan Station, and then dies because of it. Dead Space is no stranger to blocking lore behind weird walls, like the puzzle game, the on-rails game, the movies. But a mobile game that fits into the lore genuinely, an entire game, just being pulled from storefronts is kind of insane to me. I think that Dead Space Mobile is worth playing if you really like the lore of Dead Space, but, like, not really. Anyway, this video was just to let you know that this fucking thing existed, because I just remembered it, and so I found it and played it, and it's bad, and I love Dead Space, and I just wanted to talk about it. Because with the remake of Dead Space going crazy on YouTube and stuff, I'm kind of hoping this wiggles its way into the algorithm nicely. So, if you like me, if you like my voice, come follow me on Twitch, or just subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.